Bum, bum,
Don't know
bum,
what's going
bum,
on.
bum, 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 bum,
Are we live,
bum.
Nance? I'm
Mhm.
unsure.
We're live.
Oh,
We're
now we
live.
are. Now we are. Hey, how are we all? We're live. We're live. Hi, Shazza. Um, obviously, I've just seen Miss Liz come into the green room. I'll just bring her on now. Oh, there you go. And Nick. They're all here.
Oh boy.
How is everyone
Oh, look at that. We're dropping
today?
it in now. I love it.
Um,
Look at that. We've got half a jury here.
we are live. We're Alpha Jury.
Yeah.
Yes.
Misdemeanor
Right.
trial. This
If
is a
I
whole jury.
slowly come out of here or something like that, Nick, Nancy, please do take over because my technical issues here are shit. They really are.
Deal.
So, obviously, we have to put it out there. Obviously, before we get because of the topic we're talking about tonight, we are going to be talking about many many identities. That's how I'm going to call it because obviously I thought, you know what? Hi Ryan. Um, Instead of having it voices, it's more of an identity, isn't it, Liz? When we're actually pretending to be who we are actually wanting to be.
Actually, it's multiple things. We do it because of bullying, sexual abuse. There's many reasons why people mask. There's many different behaviors of masking as well. Um, there's the victim mask, the bully mask, the humor
Yeah,
mask, the calm
absolutely.
mask, the overachieving mask, the self-bashing mask, the avoidance mask, the controlling mask, the people-pleasing mask, the socializer mask, and the conform conformist mask. There's al- uh, um, multiple personalities that we all mask in different surroundings and that. And the reasons that we do this is because of social pressure, bullying, abuse, and fear. I have my notes here because I'm going through a lot right now, so I'm masking to stay strong. So uh, I am masking right now, just so everyone knows. I'm going through a lot of grief right now, so I'm just gonna let everybody else talk and share their stuff as well. So
Well, you definitely nailed it right off the top there, Miss Liz. There is so much that we do on either a subconscious or a conscious level when it comes to masking. If we're aware, like Miss Liz is right now, that she's going through grief, she's preparing herself in a very positive way to do what is necessary to make it through the day. We stuff our feelings down sometimes when it's difficult. Sometimes, often, depends upon what we're working ourselves through. The subconscious beliefs that we hold can come from trauma. I'm sure that Christopher can speak to the kind of trauma that his clients have had when it comes to
Yeah.
many situations where they aren't able to articulate because of fear. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm an employment lawyer and I represent workers largely in discrimination and wrongful termination actions.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this is pretty relevant to their experience. They're experiencing trauma. Obviously, they're putting on masks to get through the day at work. And they're dealing with these sorts of workplace issues that are, very, severe emotional issues.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, some of those, like when you say severe emotional issues, if you're looking at any form of a sexually traumatic situation, that goes both ways for men and women. We all have that smack on the ass kind of guy or gal that can really be causing us a lot of harm at work, and it's a big deal. It's a complete injustice, and quite often it's just shoved aside as, oh, Nick, he's just a little bit frisky. You know, it's not that bad. Give him a break. Right, Nick?
You're on mute, Nick.
Ew. Or Julia.
Hello. Yes. Yeah, look, I think it's really interesting just sort of going back to the sort of overarching idea of masks and identities and stuff like that. I mean, I was thinking about it just before we got on. I don't know, when I spoke to Adam about coming on here today, there was a lot to do with, you know, the different place you can go to as well, like when you engage in different things. So for me, obviously, singing is something that I sort of use, and that is an identity that sort of comes out. And I think sometimes in that space, having an outlet like that can be really beneficial, because you can channel all of those things that you may have been feeling and maybe repressing in some areas, and, you know, belt out Whitney Houston in the shower or something like that. And so it's still something that people identify you by, but it also, from a mental health perspective, has been exceptionally important for me. And it helps me forget about some of the things that have been, you know, causing trauma and stuff like that in the background.
Yeah, for sure, right? And we can either look at it in a positive, or I like to say expansive or dense version. So that's an expansive way that you can use a different modality in the most wonderful ways. There's the dense ways that we numb and mask in the world. The ones that can become extremely, extremely overpowering and dangerous to a way that we don't even realize it. I mean, hey, what's one line of cocaine, right? It's just my party girl. Well, is it? Or can it become something that is truly, truly destructive? I think we all know the answer to that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that one is very, like, it's still a conscious choice, but it sometimes can, how far you let it go, I think that's when you start to lose a bit of control over that, you know, like, very, as you were saying before, the expansive stuff, it's sort of easy to, well, not easy, but, you know, pick yourself and choose, hey, I'm going to sing today, blah, 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 blah. Whereas, hey, I'm just going to have a drink, and then, you know, tomorrow have 4, and then the next day have da-da-da, and then just be like, oh yeah, but this is like normal. And then at what point do you realize, like, hey, this is much bigger than where it started, and I didn't even see it progressing.
Right, that's where that behavior that we don't realize the destructive element. And there's a lot of behaviors that are like that. I mean, gosh, how many bags of cheesies is really too much, right? That's why they make mini bags.
Yeah.
But it can become a huge problem. I watched the movie Whale. I don't know if any of you have seen that or not. And that, oh, Nick, what did you think of that movie? Still can't hear you, Sunshine. Liz, have you seen Whale?
Oh, hello.
Oh,
yeah, I with Freeman. I'm trying to think of his name.
No.
Yes.
Brandon
Yeah.
Fraser?
Yes, that's who it is.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the author? Is he like an author or something like that?
He was a teacher in the movie,
Okay.
but he expanded to over 600 pounds. And it was such a beautiful, it was the full circle story where his character, it was a coming of age story as he worked from the parent mask, the mask of someone who was obese, and then cleared some of those masks so that he could have a better relationship with his daughter. So
I was curious. Yeah, so I remember seeing a bit of it, like the making of it, and seeing the bodysuit he had to wear, which was just absolutely insane. I was going to ask regarding, so Liz, earlier touched on all of those, the amount of different masks. And I imagine it's kind of like a bit of a color scale, right? You like it's just you can be wearing so many of those masks at the same time. Um, and I guess it's so interesting to sort of understand that a bit more. Like there'd be ones that we can't identify yet because it's three of them. You know, do we find that a lot? That, or is there sort of any sort of stats on how how many masks we think we're wearing at any one time? Or
Well, there's different examples of masking behavior, right? It's the changing how you express yourself, through your facial expressions, your body language, your tone of voice. There's different to me. It was about the voices because I experienced voices when I was younger. And I live with DID, so I dissociate and different identities. But over time, with healing and therapy and that, I lost those voices. So I became angry, right? I became confused. Where did these voices go? But they were actually survivor skills that I had that I would use to get through different experiences and different environments and that. And it's hiding your authentic self because we're all scared of showing who we really are. Society wants us to look a certain way. We've been programmed, systems have come in place, religion, politics have wanted us to be a certain way. We all have our different beliefs and patterns and cycles because of the way that we grew up. And these all have to do with masking, and a lot of people don't talk about the neuro masking, the autism, the Asperger's masking. There's so many different forms of masking that we don't even speak about, that we don't even know about. And then we're masking light on distress. Like right now I'm going through double grief. I've lost two people in less than a week, uh, and from a passing that they went to bed and never woke up. So it's a hard grief to overcome. But I think that we need to really truly bring awareness through our stories. Like we're all sitting here and we've all masked some time in our lives. uh, you know we all try to put this brave face on. Like right now I have to be brave for my children, as a mom. Um, so I think that's what we really need to just get the authentic selves out there. uh, Nancy knows me because we're sisters in Sacred Hearts Rising, but there's days where we fight to stay strong because we have overcome grief of a child, that we've overcome. um, so I think it's really deeply important for all the listeners out there that are listening to the show today to ask yourself, how do you mask? Is it through body language? Is it through tone? Is it through music? Is it through arts? You know, like, and let's get that conversation going, and let's get people engaged and say, share it. Don't be ashamed of your mask. Share it, because we're human beings. We all do it. So for anybody that says that they haven't masked, I'm just like, ooh, I don't know, man. I need to kind of look at that a little more, because we all have gone through some form of distress in our life, some form of trauma, some form of mental illness. So I'm just a woman that brings a voice to the table, and I just bring tea. I just teach educational awareness through my personal story, and I mask a lot. And all of my real friends know that Miss Liz mask a lot. I put a brave front on, but I cry a lot in the dark by myself. And I think a lot of us do that, right? We put that business face on, we put that mother face on, we put that wife face on, but and that's masking. And I think that's what people are not understanding, is masking is so many different degrees and levels. It's just like mental illness. We all have different mental illnesses and different stigmas and labels, but we don't understand them because we're just diagnosed and, okay, carry on with your life. Okay, you have BPD, you have DID, okay, carry on, here's your medication, ta go on, right? We don't speak about it, we don't educate ourselves, we don't bring the awareness out there. And I don't know how all of you guys feel, but I think having this open conversation today was an awesome idea by Adam, to get it out there, that we all every single one of us, it doesn't matter where we live, who we are, what culture, we all mask at some point in our life.
Absolutely. And when someone says that they don't mask, it's a great opportunity for conversation because then we can say, wow, well, I know that when I was going through the battered woman syndrome, when I was in an abusive relationship that, one too many times abuse, it's battery. And when I went through that and the financial disarray of my life, while my abuser was out, spending money left, right, and center, everything seemed fine. I put on that fine face. I put on that appearance that everything was okay. I'm okay. And okay is a mask because okay is not good enough.
Do you,
Most
can you hear
certainly.
me now, Nancy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, I mean, clearly, the mask is how we it helps us cope, and in situations that are challenging. Do you think, looking back, either you, Miss Liz or Nancy, do you think that, that actually, but the mask served the purpose to help you get through really tough, challenging, traumatic situations? So it was a positive thing in it by using the mask, it helped you cope with the situation because. I guess it's ideally we should be able to be of ourselves and authentic, and we hear a lot about respecting or valuing authenticity more when people are genuine themselves, but actually I think perhaps having a mask helps us cope with really quite challenging behaviour, and if we didn't have a mask, we were just ourselves, perhaps we would struggle to cope more. So I don't know what you think. Does
My
having
mask was the glue. My mask was the glue that held me together until I could find the support that I needed. And I mean, I went through lots and lots of layers of levels of support. I mean, what Liz was saying earlier about writing, my first writing experience, wow, what a challenge. I had great people that I worked with. My second writing experience, better. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, great. Here I am back again, writing my memoir, going through those different layers and levels again. So it's definitely the glue that holds us together. I'm wondering, Christopher, from a male perspective, tell us about the masking of man, because you're a man.
It's funny because actually I was just thinking about the bio that I wrote in the back of the last few books I've written. It says mask in there. It says I'm a lawyer. When you see me in court, you see my mask. I mean, I'm like a punk rock kid. I'm a skateboarder kid. I'm a criminal. I'm a deviant. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a person that suffers from anxiety and depression. And it's like that's all I do. I mean, like law school, taught me how to put masks on more effectively, basically. So I mean, this is huge. This is all that we do. I mean, all that I do, you know what I mean, is posturing. And especially for a couple of years I was a criminal prosecutor, and it was like I was really putting on the mask because I'm like like the government, you know what I mean? I'm the person bringing forward, like the criminal charges. And it's, speaking to juries, it's like, like you show them what you want them to see. You don't show them who you are. So
I guess in your job, Christopher, I mean, you have to be very confident or seem very confident because, you have a nature of what you do, particularly, you're in the law, the legal setting, you'll represent people, you're combating people in that verbal way. I suppose you're under a lot of pressure to put a certain image across and you sort of come across in some way, I guess, in what you do. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when you're like a little kid, I mean, it's like I just wrote a book called Professional Camouflage, and it's about, like this guy who's an attorney who, he doesn't fit, like into the profession cleanly because of all the rough edges that he brings with him. It's, it's like I started learning how to, like do that, like when I was a little kid, not, like in terms of what I was going to do professionally, but like when I was a little kid, I mean, lots of people grew up in rough neighborhoods. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. It's like if you weren't tough, you learned how to be tough, you know what I mean? You know, like at least long enough to get down the street, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, I started, like posturing up and pushing back on people, you know, as a, you know, a mechanism to get through life, not because I was born, you know what I mean, like tough as nails. I'm pretty tough now, but you know, like I didn't start that way. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of what I'm doing professionally, it's like a lot of that actually is who I am at this point, because I've been doing it for like decades, you know, but, you know, it took a lot of practice to, you know, to get there. But I mean, I'm still pretending a lot of times too.
I know some people who work in very, like I know some people who work in law or like accounting for high finance companies, and they feel they have to wear a mask all the time to act in a certain way. And then when they're outside of work, they sort of feel they have to strip off that mask and unleash their inner perhaps creativity or the side of them which they have to hold in their corporate culture and corporate work. And it's quite interesting. They say to me, "Oh, you know, I have to act a certain way and present a certain way all day, every day at work. So when I'm out of work, my real me comes out." And I don't know whether that resonates with you, you know, but
yeah, I mean, you know, I sit in like offices and like big office towers downtown, you know what I mean? Or, you know, like courtrooms, and, you know, and it's like, you know, sometimes I just sit and like kind of, you know, like think, man, you know, like, do any of these people realize that I'm just like, you know, like a blue collar kind of like, you know, like white trash kind of kid from like, you know, like South Tacoma, you know, which is, you know, near here. It's like, you know, that's it, you know.
Well, I think it's really important what Nick said, because he said the word coping, and we all cope with life, right? We all get trauma and struggles in our lives, and you know, we get disappointments, we get failures, we get success, and we cope with life. We cope with different aspects that happen in life, you know. But there's ways that we can overcome the masking as well, is, you know, by being that advocate, being that voice of change and saying, you know what, I know I'm masking right now, being honest with yourself. Like I'm being honest with all of you guys here today. I know I'm masking at this point because I'm struggling to even just keep it together, you know. And I think being that authentic self, being our true self, and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of me. This is what I'm doing right now. I know I'm masking. I'm not going to hide it from anybody. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to say I'm struggling and I'm coping. So when you said the word coping, Nick, I was just like, that's what I'm doing. I'm coping right now, you know. And we just got to learn to accept ourselves. Stop worrying about what everyone else thinks. I say it all the time. If you check out my Facebook, any of my social media, I really don't care if you like me or you don't, because at the end of the day, I have to like myself. You know, I have to be okay with who I am. And I know that I'm a bag of bones, and I know that I'm a mixed puzzle, and I know that I go up and I go down, but I'm human. And I think that's what we all need to just bring to the table. You know, some days are going to be better than other days. Miss Liz is not going to be masking some days. Some days I'm really going to have an awesome day, and I'm going to celebrate it. And other days it's going to be, oh, it's a hard day, but I'm just going to put that brave front on because I have children that are watching me. I have grandchildren that are watching me. I have family that's watching me that's saying, she's a tough one. She's a tough cookie, you know, don't break. So it's coping, you know. And when you're really struggling, just reach out to a professional who deals with these issues of masking, and find out the tools why you're masking so much. I know for me, it was my voices. When I lost my voices, when I started to heal and started my therapy, I was angry at my doctors. I was like, how dare you take my voices from me? How dare you make me strong? And they're like, it's you that's making yourself strong. It's you that's healing. It's you that's taking the steps. But I was blaming everybody for it until I was, okay, this is who I am. I'm Miss Liz. I'm just an everyday woman that has a hard time sometimes. And I'm looking at everybody in here, and I can see that we've all overcome stuff, and we all put a brave face on, each and every one of us. So again, I really just want to thank Adam for bringing this to the table, because we need to have these conversations. We need to be real and raw and get it out there.
I think it is one of the good things about this is
Yeah,
almost like a little safe space in a way to. Oh, we've got Madden back.
course. Of course, and that's exactly what it is. It's safe space. And I'm glad I'm being able to talk for the first time today with all these technical issues I'm having. Stupid laptop. I ain't got a clue. But obviously we've got loads of people tuning in and on TikTok as well. But like just one of the questions we've got is how do you actually make your family, like when we're masking, how do you get your family to understand or accept that we are not okay? I think that's a good question.
We need to accept that we are not okay inside of ourselves. We can't have anybody else accept that. That's thought can be reframed, because if we are willing to be a bit more vulnerable, then we can share our truth and allow them to share their truth as well. That's not always easy. Now, I'm not saying that some of the things that I suggest are necessarily easy. But, when we work in spirit and through action, then there's many things that are possible. And what I mean by through in spirit and in action is when we show up as the light, when we can be the light, then that expands and creates more light. So,
Well,
what's the best
I
you
want
can?
to pick up on that. I really do want to pick up on that because what I was actually taught is obviously I know we've all been brainwashed into believing there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I think we all grew up with that statement attached to us. But once we're getting used to it the most and getting used to that, to see the light, we have to experience dark as well. And these dark moments in our life. I think I'm starting to believe now there is no light at the end of that tunnel. There isn't, because we ourselves are both the dark and the light. And that's up to us to do that. Because obviously I'm always listening to inspirational and motivational speeches. And obviously there's a statement as well is, and I always say this to my kids, always ask them is, if you can pick an animal, it could be any animal you can think of, what would it be? And obviously they name them. I'm like, right, okay, imagine that is inside you, those two animals. Which one do you think? And if they got into a fight, one's called positive, one's called negative, which one do you think will win the fight? They can't answer. And I basically, it's one you feed the most.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is the one that you feed the most. That is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful truth. And hold on to hope. Hold on to hope. Hold
Yes.
on. Pain ends. Always. Hold on. Pain ends. When things seem to be impossible, there's a possible in there. When you take the word impossible and you add an apostrophe, it becomes I am possible. So
yeah,
find somebody that can help you through it for sure. I think also just to add, like, in that point of Adam, you say, no, what do you do? With, for example, want your family to accept you. I think you have to think, well, what if, if your family or other people don't accept you? Well, sometimes in life, whatever, people don't accept you for whatever reason. That should not then frame become your how you, that should not affect then how you feel about yourself, because whether people accept you or not, that's kind of their reaction, which obviously you want people to accept you, but if they don't, that should not be the ultimate thing, is it? That should mean the definition of then how you proceed forwards. I think, so, whether you can get people to accept you, the reality is probably can't always get people to, but it shouldn't be that shouldn't define you as a person, whether people accept you or not. I think that's the wrong way of.
Yeah, and this is what I keep stressing as well. Like, I know out of all of you, I know Miss Liz knows me probably the best. I don't know, but I know me and her always have banter, which I know she loves me for. But I'm
just straightforward with you, Adam.
Of course, that's what we like. But I think this is why me you get on so well is because we just say it as it is, and we don't think about the come on, get it out, Adam. The repercussions of it. But basically, this is what it is if people got a problem with us, that's not our problem. That's their problem, and we shouldn't have to live in fear or live in a dictatorship or tread on eggshells about what people actually think of us. Yeah. Do I believe people talking badly about me right now? Of course they are. But I'd rather be in this positive, safe space with 5 people on TikTok, 5 people on StreamYard, and then you lot. I think my life's perfect right now. I'm loving it. I don't care about any others.
But Adam, we talked about this. We talked about people not liking us, right? We talked about this because there is a degree where if somebody doesn't like us, maybe there is something that we're rubbing them the wrong way, and maybe there is an attitude or a mood or an emotion. It could be because we're masking at that time, and this person doesn't know we're masking, so they're getting rubbed the wrong way, But there are situations where we might be upsetting somebody, and we need to be able to listen to that as well and say, maybe I need to slow down a little bit. We've had this discussion, me and you, Adam, many times, where I have my mood swings and I'm like, it's not a good time to talk to me. And you'll just be like, well, come on, Liz, come on. And I'll be like, Adam, back off because I'm going to come for you. You know what I mean? There are times where people don't like us, but there's a difference between people not liking us and people not accepting us. Yes. There's a big difference.
I was going to say as well, when they were, so the question was about, parents and stuff like that, and just going probably back to my experience, I think I'm sort of lucky I grew up with mum who's a psychologist. So she could sort of recognize very quickly, even before I could half the time, if I was wearing a mask, so I grew up with, and it's not just, psychologists that can see it. I think a lot of people can feel it. It kind of reminded me of when they say people going through the angsty teenager phase, and it's like, that could just be that different masks that they're all putting on and stuff like that. And, people not sort of recognizing how to deal with that. But, there were definitely times where in, previous relationships, I went straight into the, like Nancy, your story before brought back a bit of a few memories, but very much into the okay mode. And mum knew for a fact that I was putting on that face, and I think because she knew how to approach and work with me, which made me feel more vulnerable and get through that. So I think in a way it wasn't about it was important for it wasn't the acceptance that was important. I think it was just the fact that someone could recognize that who they were seeing wasn't me, and they were willing to help work through that with me as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a comment off Ashley. Ooh. What was that?
Nancy's got on mute, so
is that your spirits, Nancy? Yeah, Nancy's doing something. I don't know. But we've got a comment off Ashley, who's obviously supposed to be here tonight, but she's obviously not well. She's put, it's Ashley here. When it's family, it's definitely easier said than done to not care what they think. We can live in a fear of rocking the boat. I'd like all your feedbacks on that. I want to start with Chris.
Who invited them in the boat in the first place, though? Remember that. It's your boat. It's your boat. It's your boat. It's your boat. Thank you, Liz. I love the laughter right there. Go ahead, Chris.
So is it not okay to just put the mask on in front of the family and then drink until you black out?
The good old family reunion, right?
I mean, no, but yeah, I mean, it's, look, I have kids and I have a wife, and it's like, half the time I'm putting on, it's like, I don't know how to drop that, because a lot of times it's like, you know, like I have to be doing, I have to be the masked guy, because, you know, they're expecting, you know, like someone to, you know, like show up and support them, or they're expecting someone to, you know, like this or that, you know what I mean? It's like what they expect a lot of times is the thing that I'm projecting out, you know, to the world. So I don't really know how to deal with that. You know, it's like I have to kind of still be that person when it comes to, you know, comes to my family. So I don't really know where or who I get to drop the mask around. Here, maybe, I guess.
Oh,
Well,
there's
I'm glad
another
it's
comment
here.
here.
That's good. It's good that it's here, right? No, but it's so true. Depending upon our family, right? Like we've got our familia, like I like to call them. Those are the people in my family who get me, who understand me. It's great. I love them. And then there's the part of my family that doesn't have a flying fuck as to who I really am, because they have expectations on me that I will never live up to, ever. I'm getting better at that.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got a few comments. And then I want to get to this question. And Carrie, I hope you're still here, because one of these comments you're going to absolutely love. We've got Shaz saying your choice who you allow in your boat. Because at the end of the day, we're a captain of our own ship. It doesn't matter. And it's up to us which crew we have on it. Liz, so don't make me sweep the decks, but it's okay. But we are in control of who we allow to sail with us. If we need to leave people at the dock, so be it. And that actually includes family. Like the only family I've got is my kids and Kerry. And then obviously I've got my social media friends where they're like a family. But thanks, Kerry. But the comment is, when the grandkids are involved, you look like the evil one. Now, I've always had this with Kerry's parents, or even my parents, where when there's kids involved, I'm the evil one, because I'm the protector. I'm the evil one, and I'm apparently poisoning minds. Oh. What do we do? What do we do?
I think it's so hard, because in work, you know, we have obviously, you know, clear, almost, you know, workplace, for example, we have clear defined rules, and, you know, and we know what the rules are, and it's a bit more, you know, it's a bit more clear of how we're supposed to behave. But I think with family, you know, it's emotion, isn't it? You know, it's you know, it's and the relationships are more complicated, especially when you've got grandparents or you know, in-laws, you know. So I think clearly, you know, it's some, you know, it's something that's different to every individual. It's, you know, because how some people are very close to their in-laws, some people just, you know, can't even be in the same room as them. So I think it's really, we have to decide, you know, what, you know, what's important to us, isn't it? You know, like because we, you know, like it goes back, can we please everyone? Can we have a great rotation of everyone? Probably realistically not. So, you know, maybe some people we have to have a mask with, but obviously, really, who's it important to, you know, to wear a mask? And hopefully, it's only a few people, you know, and most people, hopefully, you don't need to wear a mask. But you got to, I think, it's trying to identify who's important. That, you know, that it's those people that matter, that you can be yourself.
Well, I think Julia can understand what I say when I say we can change the frequency of our message. We can change the frequency of our message. So I can change the frequency of what I'm going to tell you by my tone, my words, and my smile, which is, yes, applying a mask. I can tell you to, you know, leave my room and come back with a better attitude, in a very kind, eloquent way. So frequency. I think it's frequency. What do you think, Julia?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's interesting, and it was, I think it's in my experience, it was novel because, and I think this is probably the same for all of us. Like, here we are identifying when we're wearing a mask, but then when they're wearing the mask as well, and those masks aren't, and not recognizing that, and are those masks talking to each other, and are you both walking away from that situation thinking, was that authentic, or did we both just lie to each other? Is that, and that's such an interesting thing. As I said, we're focusing on us, but I'm like, the people that we're dealing with, no doubt, we're all admitting we're wearing masks, but those moments of conflict and that whole, I'm going to go back in this, eloquent way, or I'm going to go back potentially in this passive aggressive because eloquence didn't necessarily work, and shifting that mask, but then they might be shifting their mask as well. So like, that's a really interesting thing. And then, you can come to the point where it does work, or then you can come to the point where, you end up needing to actually remove yourself from that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we've got Chris Roush in the house.
I know, I just saw him.
letting
I
you all
saw
know.
that.
So Chris,
Yeah. Yeah. Right,
Get a-
this
get a
question,
good
and I
accountability
want to ask
coach.
everyone this. Yeah, I want to ask everyone this. Stephen Ray, he put this, almost 10 minutes ago. How can we be expected to drop the mask for the people who made us wear them in the first place?
I think that sort of goes back to that point I just made, funnily enough, is that like, we take on that mask, and it's, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, probably not the right person to answer the question. I don't know if there's the expectation to drop the mask, but it's, I guess, that awareness that we might be wearing it, and then working sort of through that.
Practice.
Yeah,
Practice.
absolutely.
Practice.
Yeah,
It's the same way that you learn to play guitar, and Christopher learned to become such an incredible lawyer, and Liz, Nick, right? Practice.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think for that question with Stephen, I've been looking at that question for the last 5 minutes, and
Here we go.
when it comes to family, some people know my story with my family. I masked for years with my family because of domestic violence. Like Nancy mentioned, we put that brave face on, right? When I left that situation and that relationship, I no longer mask. So my family today don't know me, and they're like, "Where's the mask? Where's the Liz that we know?" Because Miss Liz has taken that mask off. I'm no longer wearing that mask that I wore for 16 years. And do we really have to remove the mask for these people? I don't think we need to. Masking is not unhealthy. It's coping mechanisms. It's getting through stuff. It's okay to mask. We shouldn't be here saying don't mask, because then we're taking away from how we cope with things, and everyone copes with things differently. Uh, you know, Coping is part of life, but there's a difference between coping and masking as well. Is when you start masking everything in your life, and then you don't even recognize yourself. Well, then there's a problem. Then you need to start getting some help. You need to get some professional help, because you're no longer even knowing who you are. You just mask, and then when someone's like who are you, you can't even answer the question. You can't even say, well, I don't know, let me figure that one out, because I've masked for so many years.
Exactly.
And that's how it was when you're in a domestic violence. You mask for so long that you lose yourself, and then when you leave that situation, you find yourself, and you're like, oh, this is who I am. Oh, I have a voice. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I'm allowed to do this. So it takes a lot of time. And I'm a survivor, and I'm not going to tell anyone, any of the listeners or any of the panelists, to not mask, because that would be wrong to do, because I'm telling you to take away your coping, take away how you get over things, how you overcome stuff. Like Julia said, music. masking through music. I'm not going to tell her take music out of her life if that's how she copes. Like, I'm not going to tell somebody to take art out of their life if that's how they cope and that's how they mask. We would do more damage if we tell people to stop doing stuff just because it makes us uncomfortable. Well, you know what? We all have made somebody uncomfortable in life. We all have somebody who is like, oh, I don't know if I like that person, and it's okay. We don't have to be liked by everybody. Not everybody has to like our tea, not everybody has to like who we are. So, you guys are all incredible. And all these comments that are coming in, I'm reading them and I'm seeing them. And I think, Adam, this conversation needs to be out there. We need to have these real, raw conversations more. I just want to ask Julia a question. When you mask through music, is it through singing? Is it through instruments? Like,
Yeah,
I want to get
singing,
more
yeah.
into that because you have me curious, sir, with the music.
No, definitely singing, but I think it's like, I got a guitar during lockdown, and I've established 4 chords, so that's good. That's good. There's a lot of songs you can play with 4 chords. Unfortunately, singing and playing at the same time still has me a little bit all over the place. But look, with the singing for me, I think it's part, and that it's still a mask. It's singing, but from a mental health perspective, and I know sort of doing a lot of, wondering why I felt so elated after just sitting down and having a bit of a sing session, or getting in the car and going for a drive and just belting out some, Backstreet Boys or something like that, because I'm cool.
We're going to give our ages away now.
No. I'll be doing that when I'm like 90. It's fine. But like the endorphins that get released, and the triggering of the vagus nerve and stuff like that. I mean, I know that really helps in terms of just soothing, or bringing you sort of back in terms of your mind body, that connection. So I think I would hazard there's an element of that that's just involved. But in terms of the mask, it's like I can get up there. I've got pretty severe eczema actually, so I sit and I try to hide that a lot. I think I've done a lot of hiding because it makes me feel uncomfortable, and then I project that it must make everyone else feel uncomfortable too. So then when I'm singing though, and people, I can see people sort of like enjoying that, and I'm enjoying that, and we're feeding this really positive sort of emotion, and I can be up there, as I said, singing, country or rock, and I can be the country chick, I can be the rock chick, I can be whoever and I'm saying who I want to be, but really it's just me actually projecting what I would normally hide, because of other things that are in my life, and that mask of the hiding away thing sort of in those instances turns into the, what, today I just want to be a rock star, let's go and do it. And that's, I think that's an example of that, the positive ways to mask, as and a coping mechanism, 100%.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
So they're saying, putting on that sort of thing, put a positivity on, and being yourself. I do a lot of public speaking, and I'm a member of Toastmasters, and I have a club that meets, and we have a lot of guests who come and have a little time on sort of stage or in front of a room, and a lot of new members, and who are very nervous when they go on. And obviously everyone who goes on stage, a lot of them are, you see them trying to put on their mask to look ready and hyped up, look professional, confident. But when the new sort of members speak first time, nearly always they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm nervous, or I haven't prepared, or I'm sorry if I don't come across confident." And we always say, never apologise. When you go on stage or speak to a room, just share your stories, show emotion, be yourself. We say the one thing is, never ever apologise. But it's obviously they have I guess there's that pressure when they're in front of other people or a crowd of people to put on a certain mask, to look confident and rehearsed and clear, when actually just them just being themselves and sharing their story and having emotion is actually what we want people to see. So sometimes actually people want to see that, but it's funny seeing it so often. It's almost people are always apologetic for not having a mask. So got to share that.
We have to take risks. We have to take risks, healthy risks. You got to risk it for the biscuit. You've got to do those things that aren't perfect. take imperfect actions every single day. There is so much that you can do. Surround yourself with people that bring out the best in you. All of those things. When it comes to family, expand your family. Liz and I are like family because of a writing experience. Adam and I are like family because of this beautiful show. Same with Nick. Expand your family. Find people who love and support you so that you can mask less and be more authentic to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, is bringing that unity together. That's what it's all about. Yeah, because obviously me and Nancy, we've got that energy where we just connect. Me and Liz with the constant banter. Yeah. I always make a laugh, always.
Well, I think it goes back to what Christopher says, right? When he's in the courtroom, he has to put the mask on. It's not like he's asking to wear the mask. He has to wear the mask. He can't be the father in that moment. He has to be the lawyer in that moment. It's when we go to work, we have to wear a mask because we're expected to do certain things and look a certain way and speak a certain way. And then when we get home, we're like, oh, that was a hard day. Like, let's just take a break, right? Let's have a cup of tea. Let's just, recharge ourselves. But it goes back to also what Nancy says. Like, I'm picking up from all of you guys. What they with Nick, it's the coping. With Nancy, it's the frequency. With Julie, it's the music. And with Christopher, it's the career, the feel the work. And Adam is just Adam. Like Adam. Adam and me, we have this special relationship. He's some days he's like my son. Some days he's like a pain in my side. But then there's other days he's my best friend. It depends on the mood that me and Adam are in, and we do banter back and forth a lot because we're both headstrong people. We're both outspoken people, but we pick up from everyone we're around. And when we can actually pick up mask with frequencies, like Nancy said, you walk in a room and you go to a certain table and you're like, oh, I feel welcome at this table. Then you go to another table, you're like, oh, okay, let me just step back this one a little bit, right? And it's like when I do my podcast, I have anxiety during every single tea time, and everybody's like, oh, Miss Liz, you're so cool, you have it down pat. You guys don't see my fingers jiggling, me doodling. You don't see any of that. You see the top of my head. Just like during this podcast, I've been doodling. I have paper here and I'm taking notes and I'm watching the questions and everything, but I'm listening and I'm engaging, and that's what we're all doing on this panel is we're engaging with one another. We're picking up from each other and we're saying, you know what? Oh, that's something I never thought of before, like with music. That's why, Julia, I asked you that question, because I never thought of music as masking. Christopher, I never thought of a career as masking. You know what I mean? Because for the last 3 years, everybody's been at home because of lockdowns and stuff. So a lot of people are doing virtual stuff now. So when they get into society, they don't know how to act. So automatically they mask, they put that face on. And we've been masked, right? With the actual mask across our. So we've been told to keep quiet for a long time. So there's different forms of masking, and I think it's just incredible. Like I'm seeing all of the engagement here. I'm seeing all of the different ways of how we should be celebrating masking, because when we celebrate masking, we're celebrating ourselves. We're celebrating that we overcame something, that we did this. We had the struggles and we beat it. It's like going to court, right, Christopher? You win the case because you masked really good. You did a good job in the courthouse. Like,
well, there's a great reason when you go to work, to drop the mask, which is actually during jury selection. When you talk to juries, if you don't show them who you are and you don't talk to them like kind of from the gut, they think you're phony. So the mask goes back up once you start like presenting a case. But it's like during jury selection, that's when you get to talk to jurors. It's like strategically dropping it, you know what I mean, is something I've been doing forever. I mean, when it benefits me to do so, like with family members, like to the prior question, I do, you know what I mean? When there's a net benefit to like, like showing one of my kids who I am for a few minutes, then I do it, but yeah, as with all things, I'm an attorney and I manipulate things and I use it to my advantage. So,
Well, I think we all do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. Yeah, final question, and I have to, and this I'm going to start with Nick. If you saw your younger self masking, vulnerable, living in fear, what piece of advice would you give that small Nick?
Well, I think for myself, when I was younger, I was too worried what other people thought of me, or what people thought, about what I said or how I behaved. And I think one of the most powerful, liberating things that I sort of realised, or was being able to not care to an extent. I mean, obviously, I always want to behave and act in the best way I can as a person, but not caring as in really, worrying what people think about me or say about me. When I started doing that, then I could truly be myself. So I think realising that younger would have made a big difference in my life. Yeah, just instead of always worrying what people think, am I doing this the right way, am I saying the right thing? The moment I stopped that, I realised, it doesn't actually matter. Be yourself. That is what I would say to my younger self, because I think I realised that way too late in life.
Yeah.
Well, and in being yourself,
Absolutely.
when you're in those
Les?
moments where you're struggling, where you're struggling to be yourself, and you need to step forward even though you're afraid, that's when you find a real good friend to hold your hand. That's when Thelma gets Louise, right? That's when Beth gets Rip. That's when, when we've got that person that's going to be our ride or die, our forever friend, that's somebody who's going to help you break through the barriers when the challenges come along. Get a good lawyer,
And I think you'd be surprised. I think often when you be yourself and you like you say, then actually you're surprised by actually who does step forward, and it's
I think I so agree with that, and that reminded me of when I was quite young and I nearly didn't sing ever because someone told me that was quite close to me that I was ruining a song, and they could have been joking, but I took that so to heart. Like singing along somewhere, at a shopping centre or something like that. And I was young, and so that was so literal for me. Like, we laugh about it now because that person was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so stupid." Like, yeah, I didn't mean it. But it was something that I took it literally. And so there was a long period of time, I reckon, from sort of like, I loved singing since I was young, so 10 to 13, 14, where I just would sing in my bedroom. And even to this day, I still ask Mum to go out for a walk or something like that so I can sing and do recordings like alone in the house. Like, that still lives there. Then the flip side of me can go out and sing live on a stage. So there's something going on there. But that would be something I'd tell my younger self, is still keep at it. Even if you don't necessarily show the world, don't lose what you love because someone said they didn't believe in you. You keep it, you love it, you keep doing it. If it doesn't hurt anyone, obviously, but if that's something you're passionate about, it will come out and it will keep you going. So I'm glad that happened eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah, go on, Chris.
I guess probably to like kind of my prior comment, I would say to my younger self, use it strategically, use it to your advantage, figure out who, you can be yourself around and when, and, get better at the application.
Absolutely. Go on, Les.
Well, for me, it was my younger self was pleasing everybody. And as I got older, I knew that pleasing everybody was not pleasing me. So I had to learn to please myself, and whether that meant standing on my own by myself, applauding for myself, encouraging myself, because sometimes we want everybody to be cheering for us and there's no cheerleaders. And we just got to look within and say, you know what, I can do this. There's times where I do stuff and I'm just like, well, no one's going to like that. Oh, but who cares? Just go and do it anyway, right? My younger self would have never had the courage to do that. I really had to learn how to believe in myself and how to know that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be who I am, and it's okay to mask. It's okay to cope. It's okay to be not okay. Like Nancy said, it's the masking is the okay, and the okay is not okay. Uh, so for me, it's just believe in yourself. And like I tell my kids all the time, and I tell my little granddaughter this now, she's 3, and we have good conversation and we talk a lot. And I always tell her, they're going to judge you anyway, sweetheart. So just do what makes you happy, because you're going to get judged either way. Whether you mask or you don't mask, you're going to
Absolutely.
get
But it's
judged.
all about how we respond. And it's all about how we respond to that judgmental comment. That's up to us. Yeah, absolutely. Right, well, I
What
think
about you,
we
Evan?
should... What about me?
What do you say to your younger son?
I would say everything will be okay. Find your identity, find your voice, and use it to grow. And I believe I've actually already done that.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Right. Anyway, moving on. I think that's it. Unless there's anything else from anyone.
Oh, good session as always.
Of course.
Most
Well,
certainly.
we are back. Yeah, well, we are back next week, guys. We are back next week. We're discussing emotional attachment versus emotional disattachment. There's no guest, so if anyone wants to come on, you're more than welcome to discuss that. Same time next week. We'll just go from there.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Looking forward to
Look forward.
seeing you again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's nice to meet you, Chris and Miss Liz and Julia.
Thank you. It was nice to
Lovely
meet all of you as well.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Yeah,
take
well, please share this all and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll go from there. Right. Well, I'll see you all later.
See you later.
Sounds great. See you guys.